Wake that ass up
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club, and we got a special guest on the line, a legend and icon.
That's right.
We have Nile Rodgers on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, y'all. What's up?
What's happening
going?
now? Good morning, brother.
Hey.
Now,
How you
just some
doing?
background, I've been trying to get Nile Rodgers on the show for the longest, but you're always traveling all over around the world. So now this pandemic has caused you to have to sit down for a minute. And full disclosure, Nile used to be my boss and the nicest boss, the best boss I've ever had. So it's an honor to have you on the Breakfast Club.
Thank you, Angela.
How was
It's an honor
Angela
to be
Yee as
here.
one of your employees? How was Yee as one of your employees?
And what did she do? Like, boss at what?
Yeah,
What did she do?
You was great. I had just started a label, and we were. So let me give you a little background. Ever since I sort of got into this phase of my life, I've basically have been living for the songwriter. I've been trying to do everything to help composers just have a better, more stable life. So I started a label that was concentrating mostly on video game composers because I thought that if you know the world of video games, I mean, you think composers are treated bad in the music game. Phew, in video games, it's really tough. So I thought that we all, especially at that point in my life, we all played video games so much, and I really wanted to give those composers a platform. So I started a label and a distribution company. I believe that I was the first African American who had a national distribution company that was, a really solid, legit national distribution company.
And what
Right,
do you
something
do?
else
Video games did you do
distribution.
now?
I'm sorry. So there was crosstalk.
What video game did you do?
It was called Something Else Music Works, and it was called Something Distribution. And we did it. We had a lot of big games. I mean, we did everything from the biggest,
Halo?
obviously, is Halo. Yeah, but
God damn.
but yeah, it was great. It was big. We did God of War, Gears of. I mean, we did so many
Wow.
big ones.
And what did Yee do? What was Yee's job?
Yee was
I was
just
doing marketing.
everything.
But I'm gonna tell you how me and Nile, the first meeting we had, and this is so interesting because this really goes to show you the type of person Nile is. So I had a meeting with him because my friend Scotty and Charles Scotty owns Engine Room where I record my podcast now. And Nile was about to give a bunch of money to somebody who wanted to do some records, but that person wasn't even affiliated with the group that they claimed to be working with. So they were like, can you please go talk to Nile? I don't want him to waste his money giving it to this person. So I went to have a sit down. We ended up talking for hours. Nile was telling me he has the best stories. And if you ever have an opportunity to sit down and talk to Nile, you will learn so much about the music business. And we're going to get into some of that today, where he started. But afterwards, he was like, what do you do? I kind of like your vibe. And that's how Nile is. I think he's very good at like reading personalities and vibes and deciding who he wants to work with. And that's how I ended up working with Nile, just like that. He was like, I want to get you to come work here. So that's how it all started.
They're all looking surprised.
Right.
I'm just listening. I'm just listening. I'm just waiting to see if they're responding. Now, Angela Yee brought it up. You have one of the most diverse pens probably ever in music. Like, and one song I always think about, you wrote Madonna Like a Virgin. What was your inspiration to be able to write that record about such a intimate moment for a woman?
So let me be let me set the record straight. So I didn't write Like a Virgin. I basically rewrote Like a Virgin. I produced it, and in that world, back in the 70s and the 80s, we as producers, I thought of myself as an arranger, which was a very noble job when I started out. To be a Quincy Jones, to be Oliver Nelson or Burt Bacharach or somebody like that, who could not only compose the song but could also do the orchestration and the sweetening and the vocal harmonies and things like that. that was a very noble job in those days. And we got paid for it and we were pretty happy, but we were actually really co-writing and rewriting songs. And, if David Bowie and I were doing Let's Dance and I did exactly what I did then, now I would be the 50% writer of Let's Dance. But back in those days, if you were a producer or an orchestrator or arranger, they would just consider that its own unique job. And the person who just wrote the skeleton maybe of a song would be considered the composer, but that's no longer the case. So
when you
what
call
I
it
did
a rewrite,
was,
what is a rewrite?
So basically Madonna brought in a demo, and her demo was an electronic demo. And that song, Like a Virgin, the demo was pretty laid out. I mean, it wasn't like a big stretch, but what I convinced her to do was to allow my band Chic to play it and reinterpret it. And my reasoning was that Madonna hadn't really blown up yet. As a matter of fact, a lot of people, one of the few pictures that you can see of me and Madonna on the internet is us sitting in the middle of Madison Square Garden, and Duran Duran is performing, and we're just sitting there and cooling, and nobody's bothering her at all because she hadn't really blown up. So this is when we were working on the record. And I convinced her that if she did a purely electronic version of Like a Virgin, that it would just seem like anybody's record, but only Chic interprets music the way we do it. Like if Earth, Wind & Fire had played the song, it would sound different. If the Ohio Players played the song, it would sound different. If Kool and the Gang played the song, it would sound different. If Chic played it, it would have a thing that is uniquely ours. And so I convinced her to do that. And basically, with our reinterpretation, Like a Virgin had a more intimate, more, and I think you even said, I think I'm reusing your word. It was such an intimate feeling because the song to me was touching upon a subject matter that Madonna had to show me was really, really important. I think to men in general, to guys in general, when we lose our virginity, it's sort of like, ah! It was like half of the time we're just like floating on a cloud, and it's like, oh, it's amazing, but there's not all this introspective stuff going on. Because we probably have been exploring that territory well before we actually
Exactly.
with another person.
and lying about it. Yeah, I already was a virgin.
Well, yeah, thanks to you, Nile. I actually went to school and asked the lunch lady, what is a virgin? And she told me to go home and ask my mom. So
yikes.
That was my first time hearing the word.
Now, listen, the artists you work with, from Lady Gaga, Diana Ross, Madonna, Duran Duran, George Michael, Pharrell, what is your favorite artist to work with? Because you just vibe with him and you just love making music with that person.
Honestly, I swear to God, it feels the same with everybody. I just did a record with an African artist, and I hooked up with Raphael Sadiq, Ray Ray, my boy for a long time from the Tonys, as we used to call them back in the day, and it all feels the same. I mean, if you were in the studio with me, you would see that there's no difference between me working with, Raphael Sadiq, Lady Gaga, or the Royal Philharmonic. It feels exactly the same. Last summer, we played the Hollywood Bowl for 3 days in a row at July 4th with the LA Philharmonic. And it was just fantastic. It felt like a Chic concert on steroids, but we all got along great, and it felt the same. We try and carry that vibe everywhere we go.
Now, I've learned a lot about you that I didn't know from reading your book. By the way, this is an amazing book for everybody who's at home trying to find something that they want to read, Le Freak. And we get to learn a lot about how Nile got started, because before Madonna, before Duran Duran, before you scored Coming to America, you had quite a history in becoming a musician, and even just how you were raised. You kind of, in a way, raised yourself, and you were on the streets, and then you ended up becoming a musician. So I want to talk to you about that era of your life and disco, because you reinvented yourself so much. It started off where you were part of Chic, which is a disco, I guess, I don't know if you would call it disco, but it was in that era. So I want to hear, like, just from you, what that was like back then, because Studio 54 was big. We know you wrote Le Freak because of not being able to get into Studio 54. So we want to hear some of that history before we get into more current things. Okay,
so basically what happened was, the way that we formed Chic was during what we used to call the BUPPY movement, the Black Urban Professional Movement. And it was the first time we were seeing Black people in great numbers, or at least in numbers larger than when I was a kid, working on Wall Street. We had supermodels. This was the era of, even before Naomi Campbell and Iman, but those early Black supermodels. And it was a period where after we sort of, we felt like we had succeeded with the Black Power movement to a certain extent. We felt like we had succeeded with ending the war and things like that. So it was a celebratory type of period. And honestly, Angela, since you've read the book, you know that I was a serious classical and a serious jazz musician until I walked into a club with my girlfriend one night, and it was a disco, and they were playing Donna Summer, Love to Love You, Baby. Then they dropped the Village People right after that. And then the last record that I remember was Eddie Kendricks from the Temptations, and he did a 12-inch, Girl, You Need a Change of Mind. And I watched all these disparate people, like, in those days, either it was a Latin club, a Black club, Asian club. Italian clubs, we didn't actually commingle that much. But when disco came along, everybody started to get into it because of the dance. If you look at the movie Saturday Night Fever, that's really the undercurrent. The message there was that, these guys, these Italian dudes from their neighborhood in Brooklyn, they voted for their boy as the best dancer because he was part of their crew. But the truth is that when the Latin couple came and danced, they like blew them off the rug. But they got like second place or third place, and the Black couple got second place or third place. And then he just said, I can't believe it. You guys are so full of bull. You just voted for me because I'm like you. And when I saw the power of people coming together from all walks of life in the same spot, it just blew me away, because I used to be a subsection leader in the Black Panther Party right here in Harlem. And a lot of our outreach was to the world, but we were really in a bubble. We were really just trying to work in the Black community and trying to work for Black advancement and equality. So when I saw people at the disco from all walks of life and all different backgrounds, and gay people and people not making fun of them, I was like, wow, this is pretty dope. This felt more revolutionary in a way, because they were actually connecting with more people through their music. I wanted to be a part of that movement. I felt like, as an artist, you want to talk to more, not less. I mean, and believe me, everybody, I don't let somebody look me in the face and tell me, no, I only want to talk to my boys. That's not a big record. You get a big record when everybody is listening to your music. That's what pop means. That's when you're at number one on the top of the charts. It's not just because the people from your hood are buying your records. It's because you've broken down a barrier and everybody in the world is listening. And that's what we all want.
And music is supposed to be universal. Like, it's a universal language.
You don't even have to say it's supposed to be. It actually is. I actually put up on my Insta account yesterday, my driver was a Polish dude. And it made me remember last year, oh my God, I played in Poland with Phil Collins. So I mean, the audience was going bananas. We played a stadium and it was crazy. And when we played, everybody was singing like almost every song.
Who in your childhood inspired the musical genius Nile Rodgers that we know now? Because you just don't become Nile Rodgers. Like, who in your childhood lit that initial flame?
So there were a number of music teachers that I had, but the most powerful one was my teacher in Harlem at IS 201. His name was Ted Dunbar, and he was a very serious jazz musician, but he taught me not only about music, but about life and how things, well, I'll actually give you the real story. So one day, when you're a poor musician and you're just trying to make a living, you'll take almost any job you can take. I mean, I once took a job for the mafia, and they made us play naked. Wow. And that was like, we didn't even understand that. It was like, wow.
Don't just speed past that story now.
Yeah, not at all.
You're going to have to expound on that one in a second. We'll let you finish.
Well, it was cool that I was a guitar player, because I could hang my guitar way down here and play. But But you would take any job, any job for $10 or $15. And so one day I was going to my guitar lesson, and I had a sort of sourpuss look on my face. And my teacher, Ted, said to me, wow, now something's wrong, because usually you're so upbeat. Why do you feel bad today? And I guess I thought maybe in some strange way I was trying to impress. I don't know, but I said, well, I feel bad because tonight I got to go play, a BS gig. And he says, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I got to play a gig, and I got the set list, and the opening song is Sugar Sugar by the Archies. And he said, yeah, what's the problem? I mean, and Ted is, jazz brother. I mean, he said, yeah, what's the problem? And I said, well, Sugar Sugar, I mean, I really only want to play great compositions. He said, well, yeah, well, what's the problem? Explain it to me. I said, Sugar Sugar? I got to start the show with Sugar Sugar? He said, no, let me explain something to you. He says, what makes you think you are the ultimate consumer? There are millions and millions of people who love that song, Sugar Sugar. It's been #1 for like the past 3 weeks. So you're trying to tell me that they're right, they're wrong, but you're right. So Nile Rodgers is the authority on what makes a great song. And he was putting me in my place real quick. And then he said to me, nah, let me explain something to you, little brother. Any song, and I mean any song that can make the top 40 is a great composition. And I said, well, why is that? He said, because it speaks to the souls of a million strangers. And in those days, the top 40, as you guys probably well know, if you made the top 40, you probably were a gold record. You go back and look at Billboard, you see every one of those records in the top 40 has a black dot next to it, which meant it was a million seller. And a star meant it was a 2 million seller. I had a lot of those.
Yes, you do.
Humble brag.
So, you talk about some of the numbers in the records that you sold. Looking at the industry now, and you look at streaming, do you respect those numbers the same? Because back then you had to go to the store. You had to buy, whether it was a cassette, a CD, or a vinyl. But now it's like you listen to it one time, whether you like it or not, or it's a stream and it counts. You could have a playlist on and you're working out, not necessarily wanting to hear that song, but that song comes on, it's a stream.
Right, but so that's why my new business, as I said to you, I sort of always work with the songwriter in mind, because we haven't had a raise in 75 years, right? I mean, we are at the lowest rung on the ladder. So I have a new business called Hypnosis Songs Fund, and we are the fastest growing stock on the London Stock Exchange. We have, matter of fact, if you see the trades, we just bought RZA. We just bought RZA's catalog yesterday, and we are out on a buying.
So you guys bought RZA's catalog. Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
it was us.
Half of the catalog, 50%, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. But that's the incredible thing, is that music is an interesting situation. When Angela came to work for my company, what you start to notice is that every single song, you have to think of each song as its own unique business. Every song has its own P&L statement. So after you finish making a record, even though you typically do an album and there's a budget for the overall album, now after that, this is a long-winded way of answering your question about streaming. After that, the P&L for that individual title, those individual songs, now go on and have the ability to generate very large sustainable projects, sustainable profits for the rest of time. In other words, last week, I actually cleared a song that took one of my melodies from a verse and they built the whole song around it. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Usually people will take the hook. They'll take Freak Out, or they'll take the bass line from Good Times, like Rapper's Delight or something, and they'll do that. But they took the melody from a song that I wrote for Sister Sledge, and they made a whole song out of the melody of the verse. They didn't even get to the chorus. So, yes, I do. Pardon me?
Is the song out yet? Have we heard it yet? Or
No. I just cleared it last week.
You just cleared it. Now, since you talk about that, you do have so many people that have sampled your music. And early on, you just mentioned Sugar Hill Gang and Rapper's Delight. And I know Queen, another one, Bites the Dust, that was that sample as well. So back then, I know you had to go through some lawsuits and stuff to get your money. So what was that process like? And how did you even know you could do that? Was that a popular thing, like clearing samples?
Actually, with Sugar Hill Gang, which was the only one we had to even initiate, we didn't even go through it. We just started it. And I think that the copyright infringement with Sugar Hill Gang was so flagrant that even though Angela, these are things that you know that somehow the audience doesn't know. So it's good that we're talking about this. So when people see Sugar Hill Records, they think that the buck stops with Sylvia and Joe Robinson, the people who own the label. But in fact, they were owned by a very, very, very notorious and powerful man in the industry.
You don't want to say his name?
He was a real heavy. I'm a dodge that one for now. Y'all can look it up. Y'all, okay. Morris Levy. What the hell, Morris Levy? It's easy to find out. So so Morris Levy was, if you look at his history, and he still has, I think he still has a son that's alive. But Morris Levy was a real heavy-weight. I mean, he owned a lot of clubs, a lot of nightclubs in the Bronx. And if you guys know anything about the history of clubs in New York, it was hardcore. So for a person like to go up against Morris Levy, even the head of my record company would not sue over Good Times. And I said, Ahmed, this is flagrant copyright abuse. They actually took our record, sampled our strings, which was half of the New York Philharmonic that we had to pay for. It took me years to learn how to write for strings. It took me years to learn how to write a song like Good Times, so simple and so effective. I mean, you just can't take it. And like I said, if that's the case, then they're going to come back and go for it. We want The Freak, we want We Are Family, we want He's the Greatest Dance, we want Thinking of You, we want everything. Why not? Just if you can't make a case now, you might as well just give everything away. So so Ahmed Ertegun tried to talk to us and explain to us how hard it would be to go up against Morris Levy. And we didn't know who Morris Levy was. So when they say ignorance is bliss, thank God we didn't know, because if we had known, we would have probably backed off. I mean, they sent guys with guns to the studio. And now I don't even know if Morris actually sent them, but 3 dudes that I knew, big guys, looked like former NFL guys. They sent them in the studio, and you could see their heat, was visible, right? The gats were clear. And the dude made sure that he opened his jacket so we could see the guns. And they said, hey, we came here because we're actually on your side, brothers. Because even if you win, you'll lose. And it was like an attempt to scare us, but we were so young and so stupid. We were like, we're not going to let them take our stuff. So we followed through. We got an attorney that was also a pit bull. And we found out just by luck that he used to be Morris Levy's attorney. He knew where all the figurative bodies were buried. So he went to Morris and he made a plea and he said, look, there's enough money in this for everybody. Rapper's Delight was only sold as a 12-inch at first. And we were making 3 times the suggested retail price on that record. So if you cut it in half, both parties were still making more than you would make on just a regular 45 single. So we appealed to his sense of, good judgment, I guess. And it was better to pay us than kill us. And
he was convicted of extortion in 1990. He died right before he had to report to prison. So I'm kind of glad you made it out all right.
What made you not back down now? Like in that moment when they came to the studio, big dudes with guns, you always hear stories about people signing the rights away right then and there. What made y'all not back down in that moment?
You got to understand, man, my history. I was born right here in New York City, and my parents, I really came up through the ranks. So when I finally made it into the Black Panther Party and wound up being elevated to the level of subsection leader, it was because of my martial arts skills, which is why me and RZA and all the Wu-Tang, why we all get along so well. because of our love of not only just our love of music, but our love of martial arts. So even though these guys were really, really, really big, I had already fought at Madison Square Garden. I had already been in a lot of matches for a little skinny guy. I mean, if you go back and see pictures of Chic, you see how skinny I was. I was a really small, skinny guy, and I had asthma when I was born. So I studied martial arts just to take care of myself. You know, when I lived in LA, man, it was hardcore. The gangs that were always, you know, trying to bully me because I had the New York accent. They were like, yo, man, what's up, man? I was like, whoa, that wasn't me at all. I was so different because I'm from Manhattan. We didn't speak like that. So I get to LA and they're all in my face and, you know, what they would call caving your chest in, boom, you know, and I was like, so I had to protect myself because I know I couldn't develop that sort of southern street drawl thing. So many of those brothers and sisters were from Louisiana and Arkansas and places like that. I just stood out like a sore thumb. So I know I'm sort of veering off course. So I'm just saying that we were pretty brave. I mean, Bernard had come, my partner Bernard, he had come from a place down south where he was obligated to walk in the street. If a white person were walking towards him, he would have to go out in the street and let the white person pass. So it was just like, we just couldn't take people continually abusing us and us not standing up for stuff. So with my Black Panther background and martial arts background, I knew I couldn't block a bullet, but still it was just an attitude of just wanting people to do the right thing. And we really believe that we can negotiate and appeal to a better sense within them, not because they may have had it in their heart, but we could actually demonstrate in a case that it is smarter for you to do the right thing than to do the thing that you're so comfortable doing. And I think it really helped us because our own record label did not sue them. You can look up the case and you'll see it's not Atlantic Records against Morris Levy. It's Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards against Morris Levy.
Wow. In a strange way, you're an architect of hip hop because, you know, you made the Good Times record, Sugar Hill Gang sampled that for Rappers Delight. So you're kind of like an architect of hip hop. Do you look at yourself in that way?
No, I don't, because I never want to take things that I didn't do intentionally. I don't want to take credit for things that I didn't do intentionally. As a matter of fact, when I saw the first time I went to what they used to call back in the day, hip hop, and I said, well, why do you guys call it that? They said, because we take something hip and we hop on it. I was like, oh, wow, that's a clever idea. I was like, well, and then I get there, and the only song they were playing was Good Times, playing the breakdown, right? Playing the breakdown and drop from Good Times for like hours and hours and hours. And it was a long line of MCs standing in line, waiting to go up to the mic and drop their rhyme over the break of Good Time. I'm like, damn, what is this?
Now, you know what was intentional? You did also write the biggest gay anthem, I would say, to date.
I'm coming out.
Which one? I'm coming out?
Charlamagne knows that one, boy. He's excited. Look at him. He's so excited now. Look at him.
That's a great one.
Did you know immediately that was a hit?
Oh, yeah, we knew. So, Angela, so what the deal was, so back at that time, I was living around the corner from Studio 54. I was living on 52nd Street between 8th and 9th Avenue, and the back door of Studio 54 was on 53rd Street between 8th Avenue and Broadway. So literally
how
one
convenient.
block.
Yeah.
Like, So, but in that part of Manhattan, that part was called, oh my God, it was the hardcore neighborhood, and Hell's Kitchen. So I lived in Hell's Kitchen,
right?
And in Hell's Kitchen, there were a lot of clubs. It was the the hardcore porno area. It was where they made, they had all the strip clubs, and not when strip clubs became nice. This was like dirty,
the peep shows and all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Crunchy rags hardcore on the floor.
Yeah. Oh man, crazy. You walk in, it was out of control. But it was also there were also a lot of gay and trans clubs in that neighborhood too, because there was an area called the Trucks that was right on the extreme west side under the highway. See, now it's flat, but in the old days it was elevated, and they would park the garbage trucks underneath the highway at night, and so all of the prostitutes would go over there and turn tricks under, because the trucks would hide them, and so in that neighborhood there was a club called the Gigi Barnum Room. And that was mainly a trans club, but it was, like I said, with dance music, with disco, everybody belonged. So no one ever felt uncomfortable. So I went to the Gigi Barnum Room because it was just a couple of blocks from my crib. And it was just, in those days, we would just go club hopping, just one spot after the other all night long until early morning. That's where they come up with On and On Till the Break of Dawn. So we would do this all night long, well into the morning hours, and I'd never come home until the sun was out. So this night I was club hopping, and one of the stops was Gigi Barnum Room, and I went to the bathroom. In those days, I have to admit that I was usually when I went to the bathroom, it was for
sniff a little cocaine.
Yeah.
Come on now, that was that era. Nothing to be ashamed of.
Okay, so. But every now and then you actually did have to use the bathroom for the purposes that it was designed. So I went in the bathroom and I'm standing there at the urinal, and I look on either side of me, and I swear to God, I always sort of play down the numbers to make it more believable. But let's just say that on either side of me, it was at least 3 deep Diana Ross impersonators. Now, this is early in my career. This is summer of 1979. We'd only been operating for a year and a half, 2 years. Now, the first record we get to do with a big star is Diana Ross. I'm standing in the bathroom, and there are all these Diana Ross impersonators. And I'm going, oh my God, the light bulb goes off my head. I think of James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. And I see all these gay people, and I go, this is it? Man, I got to make a record about this, but how do I do it and fly under the radar? So at the time, we were writing the
deeper hidden meaning, right?
Yeah, exactly. At the time that we were writing the album, we had just come off of a smash with Sister Sledge, but we had a little bit of a fight with Sister Sledge. Yeah, we had a problem with Sister Sledge because their first single wasn't Here Family. Their first single was called He's the Greatest Dancer. And on He's the Greatest Dancer, we have 16-year-old Kathy, who's ultra religious, totally a virgin, sing about having a one-night stand. And she wanted us to change the lyrics because we go one night in and just go on the out. Anyway, she goes, my creme de la creme, please take me home. And it was like the mother freaked out, the sisters freaked out. They said, why can't you change the lyric to my creme de la creme, please don't go home? We said, no, Kathy, that changes the entire meaning. The song is not about you. It's he's the greatest dancer. It's not, no, wrong. It's got to be, this guy is so sexually powerful, he will make you flip your moral compass. And anyway, she sang it with conviction, and she believed in me, and she killed it. I mean, out of the box, Sister Sledge wound up having a platinum single out of the gate, and they never had a song really on the radio before that. But anyway, getting back to the Diana Ross story. So when I saw the transvestites dressed up like Diana, and like, wow, this is incredible. This is like James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. I couldn't even get excited and say to them, I'm working with Diana Ross, because nobody will believe a dude who's only been in the game a year and a half is now all of a sudden working with Diana Ross, maybe one of the biggest stars in the world. So I had to run outside and call my boy, because you can't hear in a club, over the music. You can't get on the payphone. So I had to run outside, call my boy and say, look, write this down, because I know I'm going to stay out all night and forget it. And he was asleep. He said, look, man, what you want me to do, man? I said, write down, I'm coming out. He said, what? And I explained the situation to him.
Based off the context of the situation, he was like, no.
What club you at again?
That's pretty much what went down. Then I explained the situation to him, and he said, oh yeah, I get it. The next thing you know, he was wide awake and we're laughing, we're into it. It's like, man, come to the studio the next day because Angela knows we worked every day. We go to the studio every single day and just record. So I had the framework, and good thing I told him to write it down because he came in and said, yo, man, what's this, what is this I'm coming out thing again?
I'm coming out.
And we sat in the studio, we wrote it. And believe it or not, the truth is that Diana Ross had actually said that to us. Not that she was coming out because she was gay. We were the only ones that she had confided in that she was leaving Motown, that she was going to be, there's a new me coming out. I just want to live. And you know that after that record, which was her most successful album ever, we still are making huge money off that. She left Motown. Nobody would have ever dreamed that she was leaving Motown, but we knew. So, and
Berry Gordy didn't believe in that record or Upside Down, right? I remember she thought that it was going to ruin her career.
Yeah, he's as not only Berry Gordy, but Frankie Crocker, who was the #1 DJ in the world at that time at WBLS.
Only black man with a suntan.
Yeah. He was like the #1 DJ in the world. Told her after he listened to the song, he said, Diana, this is going to ruin your career because people are going to think you're gay. And she says, I'm not gay. And she came back to the studio and she actually confronted us. And she says, why are you guys trying to ruin my career? And we said, D, if we ruin your career, we're going to ruin ours. I mean, we're still journeymen in the game. Even though all of our songs are gold and we have a string of big records, that, you're the first superstar we're working with. And then, and I say this, and I've said it a million times, it's the only time in my life that I actually lied to an artist, to their face. I said to Diana, we come from R&B music, and we have so many songs that we can play when we start our show. What do you say to your band when you get ready to come out on stage? What do you say to your band?
I'm coming out.
And she was like, I don't know. I just, we just have our set. I said, no. See, in black music here in New York, what we do is we say, yo, guys, what song are we going to come out with tonight? Ta-da.
So you lied to her, but it worked.
Then when she got into it, then I got all ambitious. And I said, you know what, Diana? I'm going to tell you, after this song comes out, you will never, ever in your life come out to another song. This is going to be your opening song for the rest of your life. I don't know if anybody has seen Diana Ross in the last 35 years. If you have,
she comes out to that song.
First of all, that is an amazing story. I have a few questions I need to follow up on because that story is amazing. Number one, when you wrote that record, right? Do you think that record could have ever worked for a male artist at that time? Like there's probably a lot of artists that were on the down low, or maybe some guys that did want to come out. Do you think that artist would have ever worked for a man? That song?
I'm not sure because it was really composed specifically for Diana. You got to remember, Diana Ross was a superstar and had a long string of hits behind her. So the thing that allows you to do, as proven with so many big artists, is that once you have paved the way, now people are listening for what you're going to do next. I mean, look at how shocked we all were when Beyonce first dropped that album where nobody knew about it and it came out. It was a whole video album and it was all completely on the down low. I don't think her record label even knew about it, or at least that was the rumor. But whatever, you gain a certain amount of power because you've laid the groundwork for growth. And when
you saw all of her fans, and you saw her fans, and that, and you even said you sat down and did like days of interviews where you got to talk to her and learn more about her, so you could write those songs.
That's exactly right. And as I said, that lyric was what she said. She said, I'm telling you guys, I'm coming out. There's going to be a new me coming out. And we were like, whoa! How could she have actually said that? And then we interpret it in a different way, but it still means the same thing coming out of her mouth. So
how did Diddy and Biggie call to clear that record? Because they had to call you to clear the record, right?
Yeah, well, but you see, after Rapper's Delight, we sort of set the ground rules for clearances. In other words, after Rapper's Delight, people knew. So there were a lot of records that were doing that before Rapper's Delight. Rapper's Delight was just the first one that hit big. So there were a lot. I mean, even I used to do it, man. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna tell you the truth. The way that I used to make a living a lot of the times is that because I knew that people wanted to dance to the drops and the breakdowns. My band, we would go in and we would record breakdowns on 7-inches that didn't have breakdowns. And we would sound just like the band playing it. And then we would sell those plates to DJs. We'd sell them white labels. And we made a living like that. It was cool. So actually, when I first heard Rapper's Delight at a club, I thought that's what they had done. I didn't know that it had a real label on it. I thought it was going to have a white label. And in fact, it said Sugar Hill Records. And it was like, rainbow color like a tiger's tail or something, and like looked like a rainbow. I was like, whoa, what's up with this? Where's my name? And my name wasn't on the record. And the next thing you know, it just blew up like crazy. So,
why not?
So anyway, but by the time, so to answer your question directly, there was actually no problem. I mean, Diddy used a bunch of my songs that I worked on. I mean, anything from, Notorious, and Fate's record, Love Like This. And, and people, there was a joke at the time, and matter of fact, I've become down with a lot of his producers. There was a joke at the time that, anytime they ran into a jam, why don't we just go pick up a Nile Rodgers record? And listen to it for a minute, we'll find an idea.
I wonder now, why not just tell Diana from the beginning that, hey, this song is going to serve a dual purpose. It's going to be a gay anthem and it's going to be your coming out party for Motown.
Because we didn't think that was the proper thing to do because, as Angela pointed out, she had sat down and told us about her life. So we wanted to accurately represent her life. But the thing is that since we had started with Chic, we had always had dual meanings on our songs because I came from a very political background and Bernard came from a background where they were sort of subservient. I mean, it was weird. Like I said, I couldn't imagine like having to walk out in the street because a white person was walking towards me. Like, my stepfather is white. I mean, what am I gonna do? Yo, Pop, let go of my hand so I can walk out in the street. You can go to, like, I didn't even understand that kind of mentality. And that's where we get it so wrong living in New York and being born in New York, because we're just as victimized and we don't realize it. We think everything is fine, until I started buying nice cars and stuff. And wow, I mean, I had been the victim of all sorts of attacks against me because of the color of my skin, and I was hanging out in the wrong neighborhoods, but that's just where I was living. That's where my parents put me. And I didn't know I'd have to run some kind of gauntlet back and forth to school from guys chasing me because I looked different. And then it happened when we moved to the West Coast. I live in LA, same thing. So I knew that there was a way that as a musical artist that you could use your pen to talk about the subject on multiple levels, that you could talk about, you could have a deep hidden meaning, and certain people would get it right away. There were a few people in my immediate world that would always understand the real meaning to our records right away. They called me and would say, I know what this song is about. And a lot of them would be right on the money. So Diana, we interviewed her extensively before we wrote one note of music. And that was really important. I was trying to tell you earlier, when we did the record with Sister Sledge, because we had just written the whole album without them. They didn't even hear any demos until they got to the studio. And we were just finishing up the lyrics, as Kathy will tell you, to We Are Family when they walked in. And when they walked in, boom, your album is done. Just sing this and you got it. So we didn't want to treat Diana Ross like that because Sister Sledge let us know that they felt disrespected and blah, blah, blah. But now they say, man, thank God we went along for the ride.
Glad we listened.
But at the time,
I know they're glad. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Is We Are Family the biggest song of your career, you think? We Are Family? As far as financially?
No. What's the biggest?
Freak Out, Le Freak, way bigger. It's the biggest selling single in the history of Atlantic Records. It even topped like 4 Minute Flow Rider topped us for a minute, but because of streaming, Le Freak just had a wider audience, and now it went back up to the top. And I don't think, and this may be, and honestly, you guys know me somewhat. It's not an egotistical statement. It's just following the statistics. I don't know if anyone will ever be able to top it, because even after Bruno and Flo Rida have been so powerful in the streaming world, what's happened is that we get to use our old school statistics, which it was the #1 selling record until Flo Rida topped us. But then, because streaming has kept it in the momentum, has kept up the momentum of Le Freak, and it's got a bigger audience, I don't think any song on Atlantic Records will ever top it.
Wow.
Now you're
But
rich.
that's just
There's no need to be humble about it, right? But did you always have your business straight from the beginning?
No, actually, it was never straight, because it's almost impossible to be straight. No, honestly, it's almost impossible to be straight in a business where your main job is not to look at the money. Your main job is to create the money. And when your job is to create the money, there are always opportunities for people who are counting the money to misappropriate some of the funds. So so all my life, unfortunately, people in that position have stolen from me, and I think that now I have a team that's solid, a team that's honest, and that everybody is rich. So they have no reason to steal mine, because they're already rich. That was not the case before. They were people that were not rich and were working. And sometimes, like when I was dealing with, heavy lawyers trying to figure out, why do people steal from me so much? Why do they do this? Why do they do that? Especially because I pay so well. I'm such a good boss. I really look out for everybody. And they say, people just get this attitude like, they deserve it. Like somehow they think they should be you. Yeah, like he's got it. He won't mind it. I mean, people say that to me to this day. They go, but damn, man, you got, I worked for that. I didn't just got it,
And you know what else is true though now? But
go ahead.
Pardon me?
No, I was going to say, aside from the music, also having a great investment outside of the business, I think supports that as well, and has been important for you too.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I became very aware of the stock market and bonds and things like that, and investing in companies. But David Geffen taught me a really great lesson. He said he doesn't invest in companies. He invests in people. He does, like, every business plan you look at looks fantastic. So he says he never does a deal based on a business plan, because they're all going to look great. Why would they come in with a bad business plan? He says, so he invests in people. He just says, you know what? I think that person's going to make it, or I think that person's going to be successful. And that's what I try and do. Even with my charity now, we have something called the Youth to the Front Fund. So I don't know if all the people on your team know, I have a charity called the We Are Family Foundation. And for years, we've been doing what we do to help mentor kids around the world. And this year, because of, the level of unrest in America, some of the kids brought it to our attention that they run into a lot of Black entrepreneurs and people who are of all different, I would just say, underprivileged people who don't get the opportunities to go to the banks and have the same type of credit background. And they said they don't have good credit ratings, and either they're whatever, they just don't fit the mold for business loans or small business loans. So we started a Youth to the Front Fund, because a lot of our kids, which we've basically focused on teens, a lot of them have told us that if they could help people with extra financing, that they could actualize their causes in a much, much bigger way. And these causes that they have invested in are actually scalable. So we could help them go from very sort of like grassroots to a much larger level. And we do this right now. I have to say we have applications from 350 people, and from, I have to look at this because I'm always blown away by statistics, from 40 different countries on 4 different continents. And our applications are now currently closed, but they'll open up again in September. And we vet these people, and we mainly deal with young people that are just visionaries.
You have to be under 30. You have to be under 30 to be able to apply for the fund, right? And people can start applying again. You said in September.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to go back to something.
Family Found, and that's at wearefoundation.org. The plug for the foundation, just so people know where they can go and apply for this fund.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you were talking about with the business, because somebody had to teach you the business though right now, because I haven't heard stories of you getting like robbed in the music industry or anything like that. So like, who taught you the business that early?
Well, my first attorney, the one that went up against Sugar Hill Gang and went up against Morris, as I said, you know, we never had any dealings with Sylvia and Joe. So that shows you the real structure of their business. So everyone would have thought that our lawsuit was with Sugar Hill Records with Sylvia and Joe Robinson, but in fact, it never was. It wound up being with Morris Levy, who, you know, basically owned that label. So we started to learn right away. Our first attorney was a very savvy business person. And he told us the most important thing that we have to learn about the music business is we have to believe in, these were his exact words. We have to develop the ability to embrace failure. And I was like, whoa, what are you talking about? Embrace. Every one of our singles is a hit. We didn't put out one song in the beginning that was not a gold record, right? From the first one up until we failed. You know, Good Times was our last #1 record. After Good Times, we never had a top 5 record ever again. But he told us to learn how to embrace failure. And he said, so if you learn how to make money, even when the red ink is not, even when you're in red ink, as far as your record is concerned, your current record, but if you can always stay in black ink, then you will make it. And it was like, wow, how do we make money and we're not making hit records? And he was saying, that's what you have to figure out on your own. You have to figure out what feels the most comfortable way for you to figure out a way to always keep a certain level of a lifestyle, if that's how you want to look at it. But that was important for me. That was an important lesson, because by learning that lesson, I then started, as Angela would tell you, I started something else, Music Works, and something distribution. And I had read, and I know this is going to sound stupid to y'all, but I remember Malcolm X giving a speech saying that Black people will not be totally free until they control the means of distribution. And in my little juvenile head, the means of distribution, to me, it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll start a distribution company. Well, what happened was I ran into the same walls that Berry Gordy and people who are a lot more sophisticated than I ran into. There were no Black national distribution companies. When you tried to be a distributor, you were always shut down. You would not get the vendor numbers. You would not get them all. So what I did was I bought it from a banking family that had started a distribution company and wanted to get out. They started it because their son worked at Atlantic Records and took credit for breaking Hootie and the Blowfish, which, as you all know, it's a team effort. No one person broke the record. But he convinced his parents, who were billionaires, to give him a distribution company. And he started a distribution company, and it was failing. And I looked at it as an opportunity. And when I went in there and I purchased it from them, I purchased it at a certain value. When I did my due diligence, I found out that not only was it overvalued, it was way overvalued. And I was able to—
How much did you pay for it back then, if you don't mind us asking? How much did you buy it for?
I only paid 1.5. but they were selling it for 3. So I put down 50%. And at the end of the day, I wound up buying it for just a little over 50%. We went to court 3 times. They tried to tell me that my calculations weren't correct, but we came in every time with paper backup, and we were super tight with the numbers, and we could show them that not only was the company overvalued, but it was way overvalued, that we could go to the warehouse and see that the product wasn't there, that they were being stolen from, and all this sort of thing. So it was just, a business on paper to an extent, but they had all the vendor numbers because they were a powerful banking company. I might as well say it. It was the Schiff family whose child married Al Gore's. So their son married Al Gore's daughter, and it's a powerful banking family. You can look them up, the Schiffs. And so, they had every vendor in America. So next thing you know, this black guy, I got every single vendor in America, even though those vendor numbers are not assignable in the distribution world. A lot of people don't realize that when you buy a distribution company, you now still have to prove that your credit is good and that you're going to be the straight up person that they believe that they have been dealing with all along. So I had to go in and prove myself. And when I went in and I bought the company that already existed, of course, not only did I pay all my bills on time, I had the highest credit rating, really high credit rating at the time. So I was able to prove to all those vendors that I was a qualified owner. But here's the funny part of that story. They all wound up stiffing me because in those days we had real record stores. We had, Strawberries and Crazy Eddie and blah, 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 and record store after record store. And they all went out of business. They all filed bankruptcy and never paid me. All of them. Every last one of them. Not one of them paid me.
I wonder now, did people take you serious back in the day after Le Freak, or at the time did they look at it as just like a novelty dance record?
They couldn't just look at it as a novelty because we came back with I Want Your Love, and then we came back with Good Time. I mean, some people may have said that, and people still say that. I still continue to have hit records in today's world, and I work with quality people. I have a record coming out one day before my birthday with Keith Urban on September 18th, and I never like to predict that records are going to be hits because boy, I'm always wrong. But I make
has a good chance of being a hit.
I make records with high quality artists every day of my life. So I'm I'm getting ready to do a really big record in the next few days. Really big.
It's interesting, right? Because I'm thinking about it. I think the brother's name was Tim Dunbar. You mentioned based off what Tim Dunbar told you.
Ted Dunbar.
Have you written? Tim Dunbar? That's it.
Ted.
I'm sorry, Ted Dunbar. Have you written or produced a song that you didn't like but still put it out or still gave it to someone because in your mind it's just like somebody will like it? No. So that's why I say that I don't like to predict, because everything I put out I do like. And look, that is a reflection of my state of mind at the time. And I don't mind admitting that sometimes I have bad taste. It's okay. I mean, sometimes, you see things that you don't think should work, but they go right to the top, which is also an underlying motivation for us to do the Hypnosis Songs Fund. So my partner, Merck, he believes in hit records, the actual power of a hit record. I mean, and we all know that records never become worth less. Hit songs, rather, let's say. Hit songs never become worth less. Like We're a Family is not worth less now than it was. Freak Out and Good Times are not worth less now than they were. They're always worth more. That's why in the business, they say you can never, ever pay too much for a catalog. All you got to do is wait until you get into black ink. Because once you get into black ink, it's never going to go backwards. It never does.
Right.
That's why Michael Jackson paid the crazy money for the Beatles catalog and all that stuff. because it's once you get even, boom, it just goes on in perpetuity. You never know where the feeling is. There is no feeling.
And Nelson Mandela was a huge fan of We Are Family, correct?
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela, and had no idea how much it impacted him.
When I met Nelson Mandela, the two things that I was involved in that he blew him away was We Are Family and Coming to America. And he said, we are family, because when he was in the cell, that he could hear a song by Black girls being played on the white radio station, which was totally, it just never happened in South Africa, right. Still under apartheid. And he says, a song by Black girls, sung by the white guards, that they were going to be a family together. And he was like, this is like, I mean, Nelson didn't say, Madiba didn't say, this is the bomb, but he meant that. You know, he was like, shh. It was so inspiring to him. And then I meet him when he's released, after he's released down at Robert De Niro's restaurant, and he walks in the door and he's like President Clinton, you know, like wants to talk to every single person in the room. And when he finally got to me and Bernard, somebody said, oh yeah, these are the guys who wrote Africa. Because a lot of African people think that L'Afrique goes, Africa. So that was like, bam, you are the man. You wrote Africa, Africa.
Now you also mentioned Coming to America. Are you working on a new film, Coming to America, as well?
Yeah.
I guess that's a yes.
I wrote the theme song. So it's, they just called me last week.
Yes, now.
So we're gonna redo Coming to America, which
now is that you singing Just So Glow?
No. I wrote it though. I wrote it. It's funny. I wrote that because I knew one brother who could sing like that, and his name was Christopher. His father was Eugene McDaniels, who wrote. That's the time I feel like making love to you. Wrote a bunch of big Roberta songs, and Eugene McDaniels was a big R&B artist early on. When I was a kid, he wrote 100 Pounds of Clay and sang that, and then he became a jazz vocalist, and that's where I really got into him. But his son Christopher he had this incredible range, and when I wrote Soul Glow, at the time there was a commercial on TV that was, I don't know, some kind of a black hair product. I think it was called, I don't even remember. I think it was Ooh, Amber or Tamba, something like that. And I was like, oh man, I gotta make a song. I can't just have somebody go, ooh, Soul Glow, ooh. So that would be like, that sounded like, that was getting under my skin. It would sound like we were making monkey sounds or something like that. And they always call black people gorillas or monkeys. I was like, it ain't working for me. So when I wrote Soul Glow, I sang it and I was laughing because I said, damn, I know one brother who could actually pull this off and sound real. Because that's the thing about comedy. When you do comedy, you got to be dead serious about your jokes, right? So like I did Beavis and Butthead, and we were doing that. And Mike Judge and I were writing songs in character. Like, so we didn't, I didn't talk to them like I was Nile. I talked to them like I was Butthead. I would like go, I would do homework for your love, and stuff like that, So when I was singing Soul Glow to John Landis, he was on the floor crying. I was like going, all right, well, I know the brother who's really going to make you cry. And I got Christopher Max.
Did you write She's Your Queen to Be Too? She's your queen.
No. So here's the thing, is that the actor, Paul Bates, that's how he got the role. He used that as on his audition. He wasn't supposed to sing it. He was just supposed to say, she's your queen to be queen, and, deliver that. But he looked at it and he decided to sing it, and he made up a melody right on the spot. The only thing is that Paul Bates is not a singer, so it was all over the place. So I put it in my synclavier and replayed it so that it sounds believable. But it was his cleverness, because he wanted to feel like, man, all these other actors have auditioned and they didn't sing it. Well, I'm going to sing it. And then he sang it and just made up a melody, and then I made it make sense.
So
I want to make sure you finished your Nelson Mandela story. That was it. He said the Africa thing and the We Are Family, and that was it.
No, and and Coming to America. So the reason why Coming to America was so powerful is because Eddie Murphy was there also at that meeting that night. So so we were all in this room together, and then Modibo tells us the story about how when Paramount Pictures released Coming to America the first time around, they insisted upon the theater being integrated at the premiere. And that was something that resonated across the entire African continent. Like people were talking about that in Somalia, like, whoa, Black people and white people sitting together to watch a movie in South Africa? That was like the Civil War. I mean, the way that Modibo explained it to me, he said it was so huge that movie wound up being so important to Africans all across the continent, because Zamunda is a made up country. So we weren't like acting like it was this country or that country. It was just totally made up, and everybody related to it. And he just, it shows you that music and art, the visual arts, dance, everything has a power to communicate in a much more powerful and a cerebral way than just sitting there and talking to somebody and saying, yeah, this and that. Sometimes you show it to them and they go, oh my God, that's a beautiful thing. Or, after the theater was forced to be integrated, well, apartheid actually fell just a few short years after that. So that certainly we won't take credit for for stopping apartheid in South Africa. But when something that's a big cultural phenomenon happens, you guys have to know, y'all are a cultural phenomenon. When a cultural phenomenon takes place, people can't deny it because it touches their hearts. Mm-hmm. Like, you become a human being in their eyes. You become, you're not, even if they don't want you to marry their daughter, they still can embrace you in a certain way. They look at you differently. Like I've said, that being a musician has been my passport into people's lives. I have traveled all around the world. Like I said, if you see my Insta post today, it's because of, my driver yesterday, I could tell from his accent he was Eastern European. So I just cracked on him. I said, yo, man, what country are you from? And he says, Poland. And we started talking. And the next thing you know, we're telling jokes about, Polish and Russian jokes and stuff like that. And, when Poland became independent, they said, whew, we were really tired of those Russian winters, meaning that it was, a Russian winter is a thing, right? Everybody knows it's colder in Russia, like in damn near any place in the world, but it's pretty damn cold in Poland too. So we just really hit it off. And I almost posted it for him to say, yeah, I was in your country last year and we had a blast with Phil Collins and we tore it up. But that's the thing, is that in Poland, everybody was singing our song. In China, we gigged in the middle of the country, like a place nobody would ever know. I don't even remember the name of the town. And it was 500,000 people, and everybody was singing our songs. It happens to me every country I go to, Croatia, Latvia, anywhere, all those Eastern Bloc countries, Asian countries, it's, there's nowhere on earth that they don't know We Are Family, Freak Out, Good Times, I'm Coming Out, Upside Down, He's the Greatest Dancer, Let's Dance by Bowie, Duran Duran, Notorious. Every place we go, they know all those songs.
Right. It's so interesting. I just want everybody to note that Nile Rodgers said the Breakfast Club is a cultural phenomenon. Let's not skate past that. Okay, that means
I
something.
heard it.
All right. Okay. But the Sister Sledge record, We Are Family Now, is there a hidden meaning in that?
Oh, yeah, man, of course. As I said, so this was an album that we had written about these 4 girls that we never met. So we had to invent an identity. And once we invented that identity, then we only wrote songs that pertain to those four people. So it's almost as if we were writing a comic book or something about superheroes. And we were writing and we said, well, what's the power that they have? This one has this power, this one has that power, this one does so and so. So we created this family structure, and we wrote holistically about these four girls that were on the cutting edge of fashion, the cutting edge of business, the cutting edge. They were the, and I won't even say that they were the Black version of the cultural zeitgeist at the time. I want to just say that they were the family representation of the cultural zeitgeist at that time, which was about dancing and partying and celebrating and being independent and being strong and powerful. We didn't know Kathy was 16 and didn't know she was a virgin. We didn't know any of that stuff. We just know what the record company had told us, you know, that they were like family to us and they would stick together like birds of a feather. Right. We went home and were like, oh, okay. And then we had to make up our own image, because in those days we didn't have the internet. Right. All we could find out about Sister Sledge was, you know, their bio from Atlantic, and, you know, maybe there was an article in Jet magazine or something, but probably not. And how do you even get an old article in Jet magazine back in the day? So we had to just make it up. And once we made it up and they walked in the room and they weren't that, it was like, oh my God, what did we just do to these poor girls? Well, we didn't think that, because we thought that our image of them was the image that they should have. It was who they should have been. What we imagined them as is what they should be. And in a way, I feel proud because I watched them grow into those people. I watched them grow into those characters. And, you know, if you talk to Kathy or any of the sisters that are still alive, I mean, I think that they will say that they're really proud of that. I mean, it really taught them about a larger world. Even though they were from Philadelphia, they were very religious and they were in a sort of bubble. They didn't really understand. You know that when they sang the lyric Halston, Gucci, Fiorucci was the first time anyone had ever name checked. The first time anyone had ever name checked fashion designers on a record. And I checked this out. Look at history. You will never find one. Now you can't find a record. They don't name check. That's all they do.
It's your fault now. It's your fault that all of these white brands get so much free publicity.
Right. It's true. I mean, but that was the status symbol, right? That was like, you know, back in the day. See, if you look at the first Chic album cover, right, we have Alva Chin on the cover. That was the first Black supermodel that we could afford, and that was in our universe, the universe of the, you know, the what would then become Naomi Campbell and Iman and those women. So we were aware of that, and we wanted Sister Sledge to represent that. We wanted them to represent this new emerging Black culture we're sort of, you know, look, we live in a caste system, even though we don't want to say that, but you know, Black people are typically thought of as the underclass. And I was raised to believe that I could be as good as anyone in America. So when I was a kid, I took the bait. I only became aware of it when I started to venture out into the real world. You know, when cops, I mean, you know, like I woke up this morning and I saw this brother being shot in his car in the back. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's in Wisconsin. Right.
And let me tell you something. And I know y'all can relate to this. If it hasn't happened to you, I don't understand. But all throughout my life, I have had guns put in my face over and over and over and over again by cops or just random white people. If I'm down south playing somewhere, we played in Augusta, GA, we were all happy. We played in James Brown's hometown. Man, I walked out. I was going to a horse riding stable. These dudes rolled up on me, put guns in my face and says, "Boy, is that your girlfriend?" Because the manager of the club, I asked her to take me to a horse riding academy, and she was from Ireland. And she said, "Oh yeah, there's one right down the road. I'll drive you," and blah, blah, blah. Because I was even too young to get a rent-a-car, because you can't rent a car until you're 21. So she drove me, and these guys were like, if I had said, yeah, this is my wife or my girlfriend, boom, I wouldn't be here talking to you. There would be no Chic, there'd be no Nile Rodgers. But that was just one, that's one of 100. I could talk to you about 100 times that either police or just random white people would have some kind of beef and say, you know, you need to back off. Serious N-word. That reality has always been in my world, even in the music game. Even when I thought for the first time, I'm now working for a Black-owned company. I'm putting out Diana Ross, Berry Gordy. Oh shit, yeah, we are there. This is awesome. This is not a Motown record. What do you mean? And more importantly, this is not a Diana Ross record. Well, excuse me, Mr. Gordy. No, it's not an old Diana Ross record. It's a new Diana Ross record. And it took them a few months to come around, but finally they came around. And biggest album.
Now, has anybody ever not wanted to work with you because you were Black? Because you've worked with amazing people like David Bowie. You did Let's Dance. That was his biggest album. And you worked with Madonna, obviously, Duran Duran. Has an artist ever, a white artist ever said, or have you ever felt like they didn't want to work with you because you're Black?
No. That's actually, no. They know I'm Black when they call me. Before.
But you got to think, even like early on when you get linked up with like a Madonna, maybe it wasn't her that said it, the label brings you in, and then the artist might say, wait a minute. That's never happened even early on?
No, see, Angela, labels never bring me in. Artists bring me in, and they convince their labels. Now, I can't mention this artist because they are really big, and I think that they wanted me, but you know, sometimes money talks, and the label can strong arm them. But there was one artist that I worked with, and the label said, and trust me, this is not anything new. I've heard this over and over and over again. They said that I made the record too Black. I've heard that. As a matter of fact, there's some people, there's some white people in my life that when they called me, they say, yo, too Black, what's up? Because they were in on those meetings, and they were sitting there listening to the record going, this is the best record we got. And they would go, no, we can't put it out because it's too Black. Well, this happened to me and Duran Duran on our very first record, which, by the way, is the biggest record in their careers. Nothing will ever touch it. I mean, I guess I can't really say that, but because in today's world, they don't hit those numbers that they used to hit. But also because of streaming, maybe there's a bigger audience. But so when I did The Reflex, which is the biggest single in Duran Duran's history, the label, which was run, believe it or not, by a man of color, said that this record is too Black and it will alienate your audience. Because I did all that sampling at the beginning, flip, 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 flip.
Why don't you use? That's probably why I like that song.
And they told them that it was too Black, and they said, "What are you kidding? This is the way we've always wanted to sound." And it was a real sad story. I mean, they called me up almost in tears, and I said, "You know what, guys? You have enough power. You should force them to put the record out." And the record company came back to them and said, "Well, if you force us to put the record out, we have to put extra promotion money behind the record we don't believe in. So if the record fails, you have to give us points back on your deal." I told them, take that chance. It's worth it. As an artist, you got to stand your ground. Take that chance. And if you're willing to take that bet and lose money, lose points on your deal, I'd stand up. I would do it. They put it out, and not only did they not have to lose points on their deal, but they got the biggest records of their career. And they had to reprint the record. They had to reprint the album and put that version on the album, because when people would then go out and buy Seven and the Ragged Tiger, and the old version of the old version of The Reflex was on there, people would go, well, where's the one that goes flex, 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 flex?
Now, I know you probably got to go soon, but I got so much other questions for you. But you grew up in the civil rights movement, but you was young. But did you understand the magnitude of that moment? Because I know eventually you became a Black Panther, so I'm just trying to figure out, what sparked all that.
Yeah, I did understand it. When I was, damn man, this makes me realize how old I am. So I was in elementary school when President Kennedy got shot in 1963. And I remember one girl in the class saying, yeah, it's a tragedy, but you know, Martin Luther King could be president just like President Kennedy. And all the kids jumped on her and beat her up. And I went over and I protected her and I walked her home. And she became my sort of girlfriend at 11-year-old. I mean, yeah, I guess we do. Yeah, I guess she was my girlfriend. We didn't go all the way yet. It was coming, but anyway.
You didn't get lucky.
So anyway, so I protected her because, as I said, I studied martial arts really young, and for some reason, even though I was sort of like the joke of the class because I spoke the way I speak, they backed off of her. I walked her home, and very soon after that, the Beatles came on Ed Sullivan's show. And she told me to come over her house and watch the Beatles, which I didn't even know about the Beatles. I'm like, who are they? I was only into classical and R&B music. So I went to her house and watched the Beatles. And I remembered her talking about how Dr. Martin Luther King could be president, just like President Kennedy, and things like that. And remember, I'm 11 years old now, 10 or 11 years old. This is like hitting me like a ton of bricks because it's all starting to unfold in front of my face. These things were on television every night. There was no such thing as fake news. People could make up their own news stories and put them out. At least they weren't disseminated on a national platform that an 11-year-old was privy to. So I would just see the nightly news and just see this stuff and hear her words. And as a young Black girl, she opened my mind a lot. It's funny, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was talking about how influential Black women have been to me my entire life. And when I started in the music business, Bernard and I were smart enough to put the image of the Black women up front, even though it was our band, and we hired them. You know, we got the deal on our own. People don't know that. Luther Vandross was the guy who sang on all our records. Like every single record we put out, up until Good Times, Luther did all of them. And so Luther would bring in the right vocalists, the right vocal sessions to do our records. So on some of our songs, we would have the two main girls in Chic sing those songs, but the singles were almost always exclusively done by Luther. And even though his crew would be on every record, you know, his singers would sing the lead vocal too. That's why Chic is known for what we call gang vocals. We have a lot of people singing one song.
Right.
Now we got to do a.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I said, when were you a Black Panther?
So I was in the Black Panthers when I was 16 years old. So I was in the Black Panthers from 16 to 17. And then when I became 17, that's when the FBI COINTELPRO, that program just destroyed the Black Panther Party. It would make you believe that your best friend was a cop or your best friend was going to stab you in the back. It was, wow. If you could have been in New York City at that time and seen the level of sophistication of the COINTEL program, it was just incredible. It made us realize that we were children trying to fight a sophisticated government that had weaponry that we couldn't even imagine. You know, we're walking around talking about, you know, with our martial arts and, you know, and whatever kind of TE, that's what we used to call it, technical equipment training they would give us in the Black Panther Party. We knew basically our main weapons were words. So we would talk, and we were good debaters, and we could talk to people. And we started a very successful breakfast program here, and it was all because they would teach us economics. They would teach us how to run businesses. In the Black Panther Party, they had a position called the Officer of the Day, and they would take a person who, fire engines going by. We're in New York City, so yeah. So in the Black Panther Party, they had a position called Officer of the Day, where they would take a new person or what would be considered a trainee and teach that person how to run the office. They would run the business, because the Black Panther office was, in fact, the business. They would also teach us how, when we started the breakfast program, to go out and talk to grocers, because we started to understand vending and returns and tax deductions and things like that. And people think that we strong arm people into giving us food. No, we convinced them that it was so much smarter. I don't know if you guys have seen Tiger King. Have you guys watched that thing? Okay, so you see how they go and they get the food that can't be placed back on the shelves, and they just dump it in a bin, and they would take it out. They take that meat and feed it to their animals. So in the Panther Party, they taught us, like, oh no, guys, they have these things called returns, and because perishable goods, they only have a shelf life, and the date is on the package, right? So we would go there. If you were raised in New York and you're of a certain age, you could go to places in the hood called day-old bread stores and things like that, and you can buy the bread that was like a day after the expiration date, but it really wasn't gonna go bad that day. It was not considered fresh, but you tasted it, it tasted the same. So a lot of us who are really poor would have to buy our groceries from places like that. And the Panthers, they showed us that instead of this stuff becoming garbage or having to pay somebody to take it back to the factory and they sell it in their day-old bread store, if they donate it to us, they can take the tax deduction, do something awesome for the community, and everybody would walk by and go, hey, Mr. Jones, and we'll tell the kids that, we got it from this store, and this guy donated it, or this woman donated it to us. And the community relations would be fantastic. All of a sudden now, you walk around in Harlem, and people who were like pissed off that, maybe Koreans or Japanese people own the store, we'd say, no, my man gave us the food for last week. And they were, hey. So we were actually, we were community activists and like the real deal. We were really on the streets every day. Like I always say to people, have you ever in real life heard of a cop riding down the street on the hood of a car, shooting at a criminal? That's movie stuff. So what they would show about the Black Panther Party, they would show movie stuff. They would show a cache of weapons that they supposedly had seized from somebody's house. And if you go back and you look at those old things that are now online, you'll see that's the exact same cache of weapons. They went to a military place or some kind of place where the FBI could go in and take a picture of the weapons, and they just superimposed that over every one of their news stories. And you couldn't tell because you had no way of checking. You didn't have the internet. But it was only after I got older that I started to see that and go, oh, damn, it's the same exact shot. They're using the same picture over and over and over again and saying they went into so-and-so's house. They went into Fred Hampton's house and blah, 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 and found this cache of weapons. And here's the picture that shows you. And it was all complete BS. So, we were up against something that we had no idea was that powerful. We had a clue, but we didn't know that they would use tactics like that. And just to end the sort of Black Panther story, what really is a good thing in my heart is so many of those informants and FBI agents or police trainees that set us up and went against us. Many of them have come up to me and apologized and said, it hurts my heart every day that I did this. And a few years ago, I was walking around in Harlem and I went to visit our old office, which is now a beauty supply store. And I went to visit the old office and I was standing there and a cop walked up to me and he said, I bet you were in the party, weren't you? And this was a white cop. He said, I bet you were in the party, weren't you? And I said, yeah, I was. He said, man, he says, my brother was a cop before me and I'm apologizing for him. And I was like, oh,
wow.
I mean, it almost brought tears to my eyes. It was incredible.
Wow.
It was, what they did to us was horrible.
I mean, they did it to every Black organization and every great Black leader at the time. I still feel like they might be doing it now. But how do you think current society would differ if we had that type of Black Panther organization on the streets now?
I'm not sure. I think I think that we as a people have been sort of lulled into, except for right now, maybe the pandemic and, you know, I hate to, you know, George Floyd, you know, some people get angry when I say this, but I say that I bet you when the history books are written, his name may become synonymous with Malcolm X and people like that, not because of the words that he spoke to consciously motivate people, but the words that he spoke. You know, I can't breathe and mama, you know, cry. I mean, those words, when history is written, you know, 10, 20, 30 years from now, may wind up being the thing that was, those words may be the catalyst for a movement of real change. Because I think that what happened, and I'll be the first person to say that I was lulled into believing this too, that we had the society that Chic wanted to try and represent, the Buppy movement, the Black urban professional movement, the people that were sophisticated economically, the people that were working on Wall Street, fashion models, and blah, blah, blah. You know, that we were lulled into thinking that the world was undergoing America was undergoing a fundamental change. But it wasn't really a fundamental change. It was just something that masqueraded as fundamental change. It felt like, because, oh, now we see, you know, Dr. Bill Cosby or something like that, or whatever, or, you know, Jackson 5 had their own cartoon show and things like that, that in culture, you know, in pop culture, we get a little bit of representation. We think of that as a giant move forward. And it is, and it was, but it wasn't still on the institutional level. It's still, just because the Jackson 5 made it didn't mean that you could go out and
That's
get
right.
better credit as a small business person, that you,
That's right.
you know, Angela, I see what you're doing, you know, with your shop, and I am so curious to see, you know, how you funded it and things like that. Were you able to go through normal business channels like a regular white, you know? I know I have a difficult time staying on subject because I just get so passionate about things that I go off the rails. But there's a great Chris Rock routine where he talks about the town where he lives, and the dude who lives next door to him is a dentist.
Dennis, yeah.
He said, now I live in the same town as Mary J. Blige, Eddie Murphy, blah, blah, blah. And the dude next door to me is a dentist. Well, same with me. I live in Westport, Connecticut, as well as New York. And the person next door to me, you know, he's not a dentist, but he doesn't have like an exceptional job. I have an exceptional job. And I've been lucky enough to be like, you know, have this incredible outcome. But he didn't have to do that, because probably when he got his house, he could just go in and get a mortgage and so. I remember Bernard used to always complain about looking for a new house. If his wife wanted a new place to move, he would say, damn, I hate looking for new houses. and I remember he was talking to one of the white people in our organization, and the guy looked at me and said, why? And Bernard said, because that means I got to dress up in a suit and blah, blah, blah. And the white dude said, are you kidding me? When I go out to buy a house, I look as shabby as possible because I'm going to start trying to talk the guy down in price.
Opposite.
That's right.
And Bernard looked at me and said, mother, that's because you white.
That's the truth.
Right. That's right.
You can do that.
You're right about George Floyd, though.
Yeah.
You can't mark this moment in time without those words.
Absolutely.
Right. You are straight up right, man. That's you know, and Breonna, same thing. But George Floyd was the catalyst, because had he not happened, I don't think, because Breonna's death happened earlier, but we didn't have the same kind of focus. Right. Yeah. And look, and you know, we're just talking about the ones that have made the press. I'm telling you, if it hasn't happened to you, I don't know how you escaped it, but boy, the amount of guns that have been pointed in my face and the amount of times that I've been stopped. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I know I babble a lot, but I'm going to tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I was going up to produce a white rock and roll band, and they were headquartered in Vermont, and in the college town of Vermont. And somehow when I was driving at night, I missed where I was supposed to turn. And I was driving and driving and driving. And then all of a sudden the traffic signs and the road signs started coming up in French. I was like, damn, well, why is it all of a sudden in French? And I realized I had driven so far north, I was now headed to Canada, right? To France, Canada. I was like, oh my God.
You really got lost.
I was like, I was really lost. I was like, man, because I didn't have GPS then. I was still looking at a map and all that kind of thing. And so I was really lost. And at that point, I decided to turn off the road and fill up, because now my car was running out of gas. Now, I had a car that was worth about $100,000. And it's yellow and it was ridiculous looking. Anybody could spot this car a mile away. My friends used to call it the Bumblebee Mobile.
What kind of car was it? I'm just curious for myself.
The Range Rover?
It was the yellow Range Rover. Yeah, the yellow Range Rover.
I've seen that Range Rover.
They've only made 100 of them, right? What's my girl? She had one in her music video. But anyway, so I pull off, and there was no gas station on this part of the highway before I would run out of gas. So I pull off and I see a sign that says, there's gas and lodgings in this town, in this particular, on the next off ramp. So I get off at the town and I go in there, and it's a proper little service station that's got a deli attached to it and all that sort of thing. So I go into the thing while my car is filling up. So I've had diabetes since I was in my 30s. So I don't drink sugar or eat a lot of carbohydrates. So I just walk into the store. My car is filling up. It's got a huge gas tank, so it's going to take 15 minutes. So I'm in there looking at the whether I'm going to get Diet Mountain Dew or Diet Dr. Pepper or whatever has enough caffeine to keep me up for this really long drive now back and finally get on the right exit. As I was standing there just looking at the sodas, 2 white cops burst in the door and tell me to get on the ground, but they're speaking together. So it's this cacophonous sound. I don't know what they're saying. So I look behind me thinking they're talking to someone else, because once you know who you are as a person, I'm thinking to myself, well, they can't be talking to me. The most illegal thing I've done in years is drive too fast, but that's it, so I'm thinking, so I look back and I'm thinking that if they had shot me and you saw the closed circuit camera, they could easily say he was looking to run. I wasn't looking to run. I just knew that they weren't talking to me. So I looked to see who they were talking to. I'm ready to duck before these guys start shooting. And I realized all of a sudden the puzzle starts to unravel, that this white woman who was working there at the store, as soon as I walked in the door, she pushed the panic button. Like, I didn't even have any conversation with her. I didn't even say hello or anything like that, because, I just was like trying to get my diet soda and figure out how many I got to get and what I'm going to get, just normal stuff. Like if that was a white dude who did that and didn't say hello, I was going to say hello when I left. I didn't do it at the beginning.
Right.
But even then, why should I be required to say hello and present myself as a nice, presentable young man or whatever? I was a customer. My car was filling up. It's a $100,000 yellow car. Like, you can spot this thing a mile away.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's like a powder yellow, not bright yellow. It's like a powder yellow. I just looked it up to see what it looked like.
Yeah, it's yellow. I say we call it the Bumblebee Mobile.
That's right. Yeah.
So so anyway, it's just so the cop just. I'm sorry, bro.
No, go ahead.
So I finally discerned that they're telling me to get on the ground, and I ain't getting on the ground. So I just try and talk to them and say, do you want me to get on the ground with the Diet Mountain Dew or the Diet Dr. Pepper? And they go, it's all cacophonous because they're not like all rehearsed. They don't go, 1, 2, 3, get on the ground. 2, 3, get on the ground. They both yelling randomly. I'm like, so finally I
crazy.
know what it is. Which one do you want me to get on the ground with? The Dr. Pepper or the Diet Mountain Dew? And they could tell from the way that I'm speaking that, okay, I guess maybe he's not a criminal, or I don't know what it is, but suddenly the situation starts to de-escalate and calm down. Then now I feel like I'm in my space. I pay for the sodas, and I explained to them, I said, all that happened was I missed the turnoff, and I'm trying to go to, I think it was Montpellier, but maybe it was some other town from Vermont, I can't remember, but whatever, it was someplace over there. And I said to them, I was supposed to go here. I'm a record producer. I'm going to produce this band and blah, blah, blah. And I missed the turn off. And now I find myself going to Quebec. And so they calmed down. They said, okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. And then they said, well, you're a record producer. What have you done? And I, right away, I just hit them with Let's Dance, boom. Oh, man, Let's Dance. Huh? And probably I had just done some other big thing. Oh, no, this is, yeah, whatever I did was the right thing, and they got all calm. Then now I'm in my element. I feel like now we're equal. Now we can talk as men. And I say, I'm really curious. So you guys are state troopers, right? In your training, is there anything like a logic class? Like when you go into a crime scene or a potential crime scene, is there any kind of training that says, let me start analyzing the situation as I go in to best protect myself and best equip me for the situation that I don't know what's going on? Because she just hit a panic button, which just says I'm getting robbed or something like that. I don't know what the panic button means in police training, but I knew that that's what had happened because they came in like they had a mission. And so when I started calling them, they started feeling real small. And I said, you know how much that car cost? You see how distinctive it is? You see that the thing was filling up. It doesn't work until I put in the credit card or at least go to the woman and pay her. So there was a legitimate transaction going on. Now, you could have thought maybe I had a gun on her and asked her to fill up my car, but in a certain sense of logic, it'd be like if I had a Rolls Royce that I would, it just, certain things just don't add up.
And
make sense.
And don't we hold that woman accountable also for even pushing the panic button? That could have.
They didn't even get pissed off at her. They understood where she was coming from. Like they understood her point of view. A random black man, because I get off the highway and I have to go into this little town. I don't remember how far off the highway it was, but it was definitely a town where there's probably not one black person in the town, let alone one that looked like me or had a yellow Range Rover. And my hair has been growing since
dreadlocks,
the late 80s. Yeah, since the 80s. And then I didn't even cover my hair because even though it was pretty long, I sort of, I only started covering it when it was going in my soup and all that kind of stuff. Then it just became a habit. It was easier, or I tie it back. But, so I can understand that. She didn't see any people like me in her neighborhood, but she must have seen them on television or something. I bet she probably even liked, Bob Marley or something like, I don't know, but it was just really incredible. And it was just one in a long chain of incidents in my life, throughout my entire life, where police have pointed guns at me and I'm only alive, honestly, just because they didn't shoot. Because they would have gotten away with it completely scot-free. There was nobody to tell my story. Nobody. And that camera wouldn't have told my story because that camera would have said he was running.
Right.
But even if you're running, that's not an excuse for you to be killed.
No, bro, we understand that, but let me tell you something. You know how many people I've talked to when Rodney King was getting beaten up, and people in my own camp, and they would say, well, look, they're telling him to stop moving and he's still moving. I said, man, I guess you've never been in really good fights, huh?
Right.
It's such a shame. It's a shame that we have to always make them feel safe, white people, but we're always the ones in danger.
Right. No, it is true that you just can't, look, I'm still conscious of it when I get into an elevator. I remember one day we had turned a big multi-million-dollar deal, big deal. And we go out to get a taxi cab on Lexington and 59th Street. And I'm with my attorney at the time. And I said, I'm all suited up and everything, and big multi-million-dollar deal. And we were all happy and it was celebratory. We go outside and I try and get a cab. Y'all know the story. I mean, now any of us can get a cab because they're desperate to get a fare. But now, but back then, even I'm in the company of white guys and I'm going out to get the cab. Still, at the end of the day, the attorney had to go get the cab. And he said,
yeah,
wow,
I've had to get cabs for a lot of people myself. So
right.
I get it.
I mean, my attorney said, no, I never saw that. I know we've been talking
Niall,
a long time.
sweetie, it's Fran.
No, I was going to say, we are going to definitely have to do a part two of this. Like
absolutely.
I said, Niall has a million things that we could talk about, but I do want to encourage people to go to wearefamilyfoundation.org. The Youth to the Front Fund is about to open back up for applications in September, so we want to make sure that people are aware of that. And the youth really are leaders. This is a global initiative that you have been doing and been passionate about now for how many years has We Are Family Foundation been?
Well, we started right after the tragedy of September 11th. So we started the foundation officially in 2002.
Wow.
So we've been.
We appreciate you for checking in, man, and giving us all this knowledge, man. We got to do a part two.
Peace, man. Thank you. It's been great talking to you.
All right, love you now.
It's Nile Rodgers. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.